White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki will leave the White House this spring for a job at MSNBC. That's according to an Axios report Friday that sources confirmed to The Hill. Now, when asked Friday about reports of her departure, Psaki had this to say.
I have nothing, again, to announce about any conversations or any future plans. And at whatever time I leave the White House, I can promise you the first thing I'm going to do is sleep and spend time with my 3- and 6-year-old, who are my most important audiences of all. But I would say, Kristen, that again, I have taken the ethics, legal requirements to the highest, very seriously in any discussions and any considerations about any future employment, just as any White House official would. And I have taken steps beyond that to ensure there's no conflicts.
The Kristen she'd be speaking to there would be Kristen Welker of MSNBC, which is
well, that's interesting.
This is pretty awesome. Deputy editor at Newsweek, Batya Ungar-Sargon, is here with us to discuss. Welcome, Batya.
Thank you.
And so, how stunned were you at this revelation?
How stunned were you, Ryan?
I just shocked, utterly shocked. How could
Wow. Yes.
I mean, really,
administration spokesperson going to MSNBC. What's next? Doctors playing golf?
Yes, absolutely could not have seen this coming.
Yeah.
Look, I was a little surprised that it wasn't CNN, and actually a little bit, I mean, I think that spoke well for CNN because we read that there were also talks going on there about a potential position there. I mean, look, it's not the case that it's impossible for somebody who was once a spokesperson for a president to be a good pundit or even a good TV host. I mean, there's plenty of people who are doing the job well, Dana Perino, for example. But for starters, the president is still going to be in office when she takes this job. And what's so funny is we all know what she looks like when she's lying on behalf of the president. Is that really the brand that MSNBC wants to be leaning into, right? It's so strange.
Yeah. I guess my take, though, is, look, the job she does currently is, chief propagandist for the administration. The job she'll be doing when she works for MSNBC is propagandist for the administration. This is a pretty transparent one, right? I mean, the revolving door between cable news and various White Houses, I think, is a problem in general, especially when it's intelligence officials who are then, speaking to some secret knowledge they supposedly have to convince you of things you're not aware of. But she just kind of frames things in the way most favorable to Joe Biden, and that's just we all know that's what she's doing. So I guess I'm not. There's a certain transparency to it just by the nature of the job she does, I guess is what I'm saying.
Right. And it's not just, the president, but, who is the MSNBC audience? It's the people she was speaking to when she made that comment, after the failure of the Voting Rights Act passing, a couple months ago, when she said, go get a margarita, go take a spin class, right? That is the audience that, MSNBC is catering to, right? So I think in that sense, her ability to spin things for an administration that's speaking to a very highly educated coastal liberal elite must have made her seem very attractive to MSNBC. I believe her that there are no ethical problems. I don't think that she was doing anything wrong, pursuing her next job or thinking about what her next move would be while she's in the administration. I think, Robbie, what you said is more accurate, which is that the revolving door makes it such that, there are no strictly legalistic ethical concerns here because the move is such a natural one. It's much more a cultural problem that we have, that is such a smooth glide rather than some sort of strictly ethical breach.
Right. Given the world that we have today, it makes perfect sense that a Democrat would go from the White House to MSNBC, or a Republican would go from a Republican White House to Fox News, like that. But it's just kind of more revealing about the fact that we do live in that world, and that's probably what's kind of unsettling about it. What I'm curious although Nicole Wallace being the exception, jumping from the Republican side over to the right. Democratic side, I'm curious what you think about George Stephanopoulos, who was a very early pioneer in this move, but has actually when he went from the Clinton White House then into became kind of like a mainstream journalist, not a But I'm curious, do people think of him as a Democratic mouthpiece? Or
I do.
As somebody who's on the left, I've always seen him as a centrist, like down the middle. But maybe people who are on the right think of him as like some far lefty. I don't know. What's your read on it?
Well, I mean, the White House he came from was pretty centrist, right? So
Right.
no conflict there. I mean, like I said, I don't think it's impossible to have had a job with the administration and then come out and become actually a good journalist, become somebody who's able to do the work well. I think George Stephanopoulos, by and large, is, pretty much doing that sort of down the center. But like we were saying before, in some ways, the center is very much aligned with the Democratic Party, right? So in that sense, there's no real conflict there. And also, I think that the difference is when the president is still in office, right? To go from, Robbie, just like you said, propagandizing for him from the White House podium to propagandizing for him on MSNBC. I mean, we understand, yes, of course, that's going to be the role that she takes as a pundit, right, on MSNBC. But is there going to be any recognition for the audience that that's the case? Like a lot of people who turn on, their TV in the evening, right? How keyed into this are they? Like, is there going to be a disclosure like, oh, I was saying this on behalf of the administration a week ago, and now I'm saying it to you, like, in some more, whatever journalistic sense or not? I think that's a really important question.
Yeah, I just assume it'll be the same. She'll have to say the same thing. It would be interesting if she leaves the administration, joins MSNBC, and then it would be interesting either way. Like maybe she's much more progressive or much further left even
like,
than she was
border,
allowed
man,
to be under.
What are we doing?
Yeah, that would be fascinating. But and I guess it'll be interesting. Just in the meantime, since it's pretty clear she's doing this, like how does she handle? The reporter, I guess the MSNBC reporters in the room for now. But look, I mean, she's an eloquent take-haver, so she'll make a great pundit. I think it's crazy to expect her to be anything more than that. But fine. What more can you say?
Right.
Is the show going to be called Psaki Bomb?
That's a good question. Yeah. What should her show be called? Or she's not going to have her own show, right? She's just going to be a.
I thought she was going to have a Peacock show and then a contributor.
She is going to have her own show.
Wow.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
I think it's still being worked out, but that's what.
She's not taking. My understanding is she's not taking Rachel Maddow's hour because and Rachel Maddow is planning to leave, but they don't know who's going to replace her yet. That's my understanding. Is that your understanding, Batya?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there was. My understanding was that she was interested in it, and there were talks about it, but that it sort of, in the end, she's not going to be taking that position. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an important position. What should they do, or where should they look to try to fill that role? Do you think? Because Rachel Maddow is their prime person, is their person. The network's so closely identified with her, maybe less so now, but for so long. So it's a pretty key role to fill. What do you think they should do about it?
When people ask me, like, how should we, if you were the queen of journalism in America, like, what were the czar, what would you do? I always say the same thing, which is, there would be one question that would be the first question I would ask for every interview, and it would be, do you like cruise ships? And if they say no, they're out. Because, like, there are all these things that are just dividing lines between out-of-touch elites and the rest of Americans, I would love to see somebody have that spot who did not go to Harvard or Princeton or Yale or Columbia Journalism School or any of these other places where, increasingly journalism is called for. Somebody just from the heartland, somebody from a working class background, maybe somebody without a college degree, a person of color from an inner city. Like, there's so many talented people out there.
What was the question?
Do you like cruise ships?
Cruise ships?
Growing up, I thought of people who could go on a cruise as like super rich.
Yeah, and what's the right answer to it?
Cruise ships are something that, like, middle class, working class Americans save up for years and then go on cruise ships and love them.
I love cruise ships. I want to go on a cruise.
Absolutely hate them. Exactly. It's like, it's something normal people.
I get it. Okay, right. You're saying normal people do aspire to go on cruise ships versus like. Right, liberal. Okay, I get it. But the wealthy, progressive elites are like they have their vacation home somewhere. Like I get it. Like cruise are for the. I get it. I get what you're saying. I agree.
Disneyland, right? You have now this whole fight happening about Disney. It's like these liberal elites would never dream of going to Disney World, right? It's full of people who don't want their children to be learning about transgenderism in kindergarten, right? And it's like this whole conflict happens on these spheres that are sort of populated by the other people.
Yeah.
Well, Disney's insanely expensive too.
Actually, yeah, we should do a separate discussion about what's going on with Disney right now. The conservative war on Disney. It's like, bring me the head of Mickey Mouse. It's kind of funny. Anyway, Batya, we'll discuss that soon, I promise. Batya, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And next up, Kim Iverson will be with us, so stick around.